Welcome to the Smart Nonsense Podcast, where we talk about smart nonsense. We're back at it again, but we got a guest on this episode. Jack's never seen me this excited, first of all, but I just spoiled it. It's Jack Belcaster. Same last name as the other dude in that room, Henry Belcaster. First guest in years, really, since maybe 2021.
First podcast appearance?
When we shut it all down.
No, he said first guest in years.
I know, but is it also your first podcast appearance?
I'm wondering, was I supposed to squeal at the beginning?
The squeal
A round of applause is usually good for my ego.
The squeal, they're all kind of ticks. I think they're ticks we've hit from being 400 episodes in with 400 views each.
Okay.
I told Jack before we got on, like, these are just, it's like a phone call amongst a couple friends, and we got a lot of inside jokes. Three-way phone call. I thought we could start with Jack, the goal here, the goal over these 20 minutes or so is we have talked a lot about Jack on the podcast, maybe for almost a year. I think we hinted at you coming to work with us 2-3 years ago. You've been with us now for 2 months.
3
months.
months.
Counting the days.
He's got tallies in
94 days
on his bedroom
hours,
wall.
8 minutes.
I'm curious, first and foremost, like,
well,
I
don't mean to jump in already, but I mean, for the audience, basically Henry and I took clip from, in theory, 0 to 1, like 0 to $1 million. We suck at everything else. We're not good at it. We don't necessarily like it. We want to focus on one day making the podcast even better, but also shorts, smart nonsense content. So Jack is our saving grace, where he can just come in and figure out that 1 to 10, ideally $10 million, figure out how to grow a proper company. Because we were sauced, and I guess.
Well, I think we probably bait and switched. Like, I don't think we were quite at 1.
No, I was just gonna say, I definitely thought, like, from the outside looking in, I was like, oh, these guys did a nice job of growing this business from 0 to 1. I am going to take it from 1 to 10. What I learned is I have to take it from like 0.8 to 10, which is fine.
That's a generous 0.8 too, actually.
It was like at 1 waffle, like plus or minus 0.2 or something like that.
And it would waffle extremely. Like, it could go from maybe even negative 1 to 1. So anywhere on that extreme. But yeah, sorry, Henry, where did you want to take us with this?
I was going to ask Jack. Okay, we'll get to the opening question. I have one thing on that. My opening question was, what do you think of us crazies running a business? But before we hit that, the -1 you said, okay. What I'll say right off the bat that I like so much about Jack being here already is, like, Jack is here, which means the business model is locked in, which means when things get hard, we can't just like pivot 180. And
you still kind of try to do.
Yeah,
I try to do constantly. I'm like, hey, this ads agency, we ever think about that?
No.
Shut it right.
Which, for a business before you came in, a business doing $1.5 million a year, to do a full 180 pivot, like, we were always in search of product market fit. But now, as Jack's here and the days go on, I'm like so totally convinced we have it. It's just about like putting your head down and optimizing it. But
yeah, and I think, I don't think you necessarily had perfect product market fit. Like, I can understand why you felt uneasy about like cranking the machine, but the product market fit was right under your noses. Right? Like, you didn't have to change the product or change the market too much. You just had to tweak some things and put some systems in place to smooth things over and create more stability. And then you realize, like, oh yeah, we have something good and a lot of people want to use it.
What we would have done is basically...
What we did do multiple times.
What we have done multiple times is basically, in trying to find like our ideal client, we'll fire all of the non-ideals, basically go back to 0, and then try and find our ideal client. Jack comes in and is like, don't rock the boat. These people that are non-ideal are fine for now. Let's just change the course of the boat a little bit moving forward.
Right. And the thing that gives me the wisdom to be able to do that is that I didn't want to be bleeding $75,000 a month. Like it's not rocket science to like
right.
have healthy cash flow while you're trying to tweak the business and find more growth.
You have a lot more to lose than we do. I think that's the other thing in finding someone to go from like 1 to 10. It's in like, who said this? I want to be like Paul Graham was like very weary of the like Henry and Dylan types as founders that don't have much to lose and will burn everything down and start over, versus the Jack, like 3 kids coming from a W-2 job, like can't afford to burn the thing down to zero and start from
He's
scratch.
got a family in that house or that ship that you're trying to burn.
We have gone down to 2 meals a day.
Right.
I think that's going to change.
Potato heavy. But that's good. So I mean, I don't mean to derail too much because I want to treat this almost like a deep pod, as in like, I don't know, Jack, what you envisioned your future would be, but like working with your brother and his friend on a video editing company, I'm sure wasn't in the cards. So like,
I think that's accurate.
Yeah. Trajectory wise.
Talk about the day you came home.
I will say,
pissed from work.
There was a lot of days.
There were a lot of days.
But yeah, I can talk about that a little bit. I mean, I guess the first thing I'll say is I don't envision future. So it's not like I envisioned something different. I'm not a big planner, not a big goal setter. So not, when I read like all these startup founder books of like how to create your 5-year plan, I like throw up in my mouth a little bit. I like to go with the flow. I mean, really, I'll go a little bit personal here, but as both of you guys know at this point, my now wife, about to be of 8 years, and I found out we were having a kid when we were 21. Now she's about to finish first grade. We have 3 of them. But that kind of, I was like, oh, shit, your life can change pretty fast. And so, having ideas about where you're going that are too rigid, I'm sure it works for some people, but it's never really worked for me. So I was just going with the flow. The flow, as Henry alluded to, was not going well. I worked for a fintech startup in Chicago that was acquired by a big bank, spent about 16 months there, and just started to burn out pretty significantly. I think Henry asked, talk about that one day you came home. I'm like, it was like basically every day.
There are a couple, but you'd come home to mom and dad's and you're pissed from something at work and you're like, do you need a CEO? Like, when are you going to hire me to be CEO?
Yeah.
Right.
And finally, one time I was like, wait, actually right now.
Yeah. Because you guys have brought this up before.
It's been years.
And it wasn't a good time for me. And also I didn't think you could afford me. And then
still can't.
I'll get to that. So we sat down and looked at the numbers, and you guys were doing better than I thought. And I was like, oh, I think you might be at the point when you can afford to bring in a CEO. So I decided to come in. I was wrong. We're not yet at that point, but we're close, and I'll get us there. But yeah, I did not think I'd be running a video production company. I think the biggest source of frustration at my last gig and the biggest positive difference from running a video production company is the sales cycle that I was dealing with before. So in my prior business, it could take us 2 years to close a single client. I mean, they were big multi-million-dollar deals. So it was like Captain Ahab hunting his whale, and sometimes you'd get a whale. But I just
animate that.
We can do that. Might be copyright. No, it's probably public domain.
Fair use.
Ahab?
Yeah, fair use.
But I just got tired of the feeling of like when I would end my work day, I think to myself, what did I do today? And it's like, well, I made 30% of a spreadsheet that I'll eventually finish that might one day lead to some positive thing that might one day lead to a sale in 2 years that will lead to prosperity to all of us.
But also,
and it's just,
the company you
Too
got
slow.
acquired by, acquired by the company that acquired you, wouldn't it be common for them to even like acquire your technology and then like just not even care about your product and your technology?
Yeah,
Like just acquire for competition's sake, and then what you do like really doesn't matter.
they did care though. I mean, they were trying and are still trying to grow that business, but there's like 12 months of figuring each other out and integration that slows things down even further, and meeting new people and different teams. We were a 150 person company being absorbed by a 44,000 person company. So that slowed things down even further.
140,000.
But it's just like, I think, I'm sure not everybody is like this, but for me, I realized that um, I need to see tangible output that's related to the input that I'm providing to feel like I'm spending my energy well. And now running a business, you obviously get that, but this style of business, Clip, our sales cycle is like a week, right? So if I get on a sales call a week later, I have a new client who's really fun. I can hire a new employee who's super talented, and revenue goes up. And that tight feedback loop on the action you're taking every day leading to results in a relatively short time is a lot more rewarding than grinding away, in a 12,000 person division, hoping that one day you catch a whale.
Right. That's where like the big mission is everything. If you're like, it's a 2-year cycle. Like you really got to
If
be
you're at the
invested.
big
But like,
thing, right? Like if you're at the big 144,000 company and you're not on board with some big mission, then it's really like, is that what you're saying about big
yeah,
mission?
if like you need the mission if you don't get any
Right.
daily reward, and it's like,
Right.
what is like the whale at the end of the day? What is the purpose of the whale? It's just to make more money. So it's like that mission isn't that exciting. I don't know. It feels like just no good.
Yeah, it was too ephemeral. I mean, my favorite job I've ever had was when I was a dishwasher in a restaurant. And it was because at the end of I worked the swing shift, so like 2 p.m. to 10 p.m., finished cleaning the kitchen. And then when I was walking home, I had the same thought process, like, what did I get done today? And it's like, I knew exactly what I did. I washed the dishes. I cut lettuce out of the ground for the salad that night. Like, it was just like that relationship between your work and reward was, obviously, it's not work I'd want to do my whole life, but that feedback loop was immediate. I washed the dishes. I feel good about myself today. I did a job well done. Now I go to sleep.
Yeah, I feel like if you marry the two of like you wash whatever lettuce or like clean plates or whatever it is, and then plus like in that process you're making the best restaurant on earth, or like the next Alinea or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, then it's like you get 100% satisfaction.
We did a James Beard Award. It was a very good restaurant.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
I was gonna say I didn't
worked
know
at a
about
beach
you
club.
washing dishes, but now I do. And yesterday in our all hands, I was talking about a job I had in college. Jack didn't know I had
didn't know
as a
about
video editor
I
of
thought
all
he was
things.
making up a story for the company.
That's actually when I
The-
decided that I would not go and like work at a big company, because I couldn't get any of my ideas through. Plus like video editing for a big company, I was like, I'm just gonna go do this myself, because they won't. I have all these ideas, but they won't take them.
Yeah.
Right.
Piss me off.
So Jack, you come in, not what you expected. You expected ideally one, got 0.8 in the nicest of terms, plus a lot of debt, because when we'd go on our escapades pivoting, because you can pivot when you're small, but then if you're your brain also likes pivoting, you end up with like 300K in debt, which doesn't help. Are you in like panic mode month one, or like what's going through your head?
No, probably month 2 I was briefly.
Currently,
I mean, month 1, you're just trying to figure out the ropes, like meeting as many people on the team as I can, trying to learn how video production works, right? I know nothing about the domain, trying to learn as much as I can about our clients, and honestly, like not paying as much attention to the finances of the business, because I just had more urgent things. I had to figure out like what this business is and who's here and what am I working with.
And we thought it was fine.
We did think it was fine.
We thought everyone was going to get paid. It's fine right now.
Yeah. And then once I got my feet underneath me a little bit, and could start paying attention to other things, and was reviewing like the balance sheet and P&L after month one, and then going to make payroll, which is by far our biggest expense. I was like, wait a second.
Well, you called me and you were like,
where's all the
month
money?
2, you're like, where is all the money going?
Yeah.
Just where is it all going? Because like it was coming in. I know it was coming in through Stripe, and it is literally vanishing.
Yeah.
He calls me, and then we look at the balance sheet, and you're like, dude, so you know all that like Stripe loan, $250,000 in debt you have, that's at the top of the balance sheet.
It doesn't hit the P&L.
It's actually not even in the P&L. So when we're like trying to forecast what's happening in our head, whatever we think we're losing per month, subtract another 50,000.
Yeah.
Because in the balance sheet, we're losing another 50,000 a month. It's not in the P&L. And that was month 2. And he's like, oh,
Yeah. And
something
really,
radical needs to happen.
You know, I was just not to get too financial statements nerdy, but it was my bad like earlier in the year for not asking to see like a cash flow statement, which you guys weren't producing, because that would have showed us in like plain letters what was going on. But yeah, we were all looking at the P&L. We were like, all right, nice, we're getting close. And it's like, no, we're
So
we've got
deep.
this debt that has some funny properties that make it pretty onerous to pay off. So anyways, month 2, I had to start getting creative with cash. But again, another cool thing about this business, like it took us like 22 days to get out of that pickle, right? And like now we're on a good trajectory and there's no panic mode and we're growing.
It was funny. I think when you came in, you had a tendency to, probably from the kind of like corporate job days, you had a tendency to get into a spreadsheet, financially model, do this and that. Let's, we're going to slow play a little. Let's boot up the systems. Let's have Linky work on this. And I think we realized then, and hopefully you did, which is like things move a lot faster with the stage we're at right now. You actually never finished the financial model because it didn't
sell.
It didn't matter. We had to go
The
find
financial model was
$100,000.
30 butts and 30 seats in 30 days. It's just like
Right.
matching editors, like 30 and
It's
30.
like the nuance doesn't matter. We need to sell a lot. Go.
Yeah. I will say, had I finished it more quickly, we would have seen the cash problem more quickly also, but it hit us in the face, so we found it eventually. And then, it was just sell. And start to put some...
Not only sell, it was get on the phone, which we were not... we were reluctant to ever do. Get on the phone with the team, with prospective sponsors, with clients. Jack comes in, we strike this big deal with CeraVe, and like, knock on wood, right? Still needs to close, but so this is a big sponsored deal for Smart Nonsense for our shorts. I think we talked about it on here, Dylan. But like, that deal would not have closed if it was Dylan and I, because it took 10 conversations back and forth on the phone that we just would not have had.
Yeah.
Right.
Now
we would have probably been like, hey, we'll do all this for 10 grand, but you got to buy now. And they're like, that's not what that's a lot cheaper than we'd spend, but that's not what we want at all. And then it just never happens. And that's what we've debated in the past. Because I think we got kind of tainted by Naval, which luckily you probably never listened to. Or I don't know, pros and cons. But like, he was always like, productize yourself. Like, that's the first thing. Just, async. You don't need all this bullshit. Just like figure out the product and put a, one-click buy page. That's what we thought for everything. And then the problem is you never get feedback from anybody. So you end up creating the wrong product and then radicalizing every 2 months and creating a whole new product.
Right. I think there's a time and place for that you probably weren't at yet. Like the main reason I took over sales when I did was so that I was on the front lines talking to the market and hearing what they have to say and figuring out how we need to tweak our message, figuring out if we need to tweak our offering. at all. And it's like, you can't do that async. Like you do need to talk to people to learn. Now it's at some point, once it's fully dialed in, do we make it one click buy and I never get on another sales call? Yeah, maybe.
Right.
But until then, it's tough. We also, the first thing I did as CEO was take away the team's unlimited PTO policy and put them on a limited number of days of PTO. And I remember Henry, we were trying to figure out how to roll this out, and he's like, I'll just write it up and put it in Slack. I'm like, no, you're not going to do that. Like, I'll set up a meeting with the company, talk to everybody, announce it so that they can hear the tone in my voice. I can provide nuance that it's very hard to put in writing. It's possible, but very hard. And let them scream at me if they want to. And they didn't. It was fine. But it's like, yeah, sometimes we're human beings. We're not robots, right? Sometimes you need to be face to face with other people.
You saved Henry from getting mutinied potentially.
Well,
Henry would be more eloquent than
anyways.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thank God. We'll
I
finally
saved
get out.
me from inheriting a real shit sandwich.
Right.
From a mutiny
basically,
brewing. Right,
you were
as
like,
I take over the ship.
Whatever you guys do, just don't just don't do something fucking crazy. Just like keep it as is. I'm gonna come in and figure things out. Don't fire anybody. Don't change business models. Just like keep it as is for like 2 weeks till I'm figured out. Which you have so far. And then in terms of plan, I know you don't plan, but like, is it just turn the dial more? Like we roughly have, hey, let's match editors, make sure the best editors, people know how to use them, and then just fucking crank up marketing, or any idea what that looks like?
Basically, I mean, it's
Watch out for Beta Beast.
It's not a very complicated business, right? So when you look at the business, you come in and kind of break it down into its most important components. And those are hiring. So our business does not exist if we can't hire elite video talent, right? Acquiring new clients, that's sales. And then once we have a video editor and we have a client, how to make sure that relationship produces good video.
And wait, pause. You came in and you said those things 2 months ago, and you were like, by the way, that is our core business. We're doing none of those things right now.
Yeah, I think right. We were not selling well.
Onboarding was a disaster.
Hiring was okay.
Yeah.
But kind of by the seat of your pants. The biggest missing piece was nurturing the editor and client relationship to set it up for success. Because I know, you guys had this philosophy of like, you just pair an editor with a client, they get to work, don't put any bottlenecks in the way, don't get any people in there, we don't need middle managers. Like, I generally ascribe to all of that. But there's a lot of reliance on the client doing the right things. And a lot of times they don't know what to do. That's why they've come to us for help. And what we found is, like, we don't need to be a full service agency that's providing 10 hours a week of consulting services to clients. You just need to talk to them a couple times as they're onboarding, figure out what their objectives are, how their team is set up, who's going to be the point person on their side, coach them on how to get the best out of an editor. So it's basically like, we can invest 2 or 3 hours per client over a couple weeks, and then they're set up pretty well for success with some like check-ins along the way. So basically, I just look at the major components of the business, ask like, how are they doing? If well, great, how could we improve them? If they're not doing well, why? And what systems can we put in place to stabilize each of these 3 pieces of the business? And we've done that and are continuing to do that. That middle piece of the editor-client relationship is still the bumpiest and where we need to keep tinkering with different systems and schemes to make that work as smoothly as possible.
It's the hardest piece. But it's also the entire business.
Right.
So like once that's unlocked.
And so I think, and hiring, I expect we're going to grow a lot over the summer, which means I think the demand on our hiring is going to be higher than it's ever been in the past. So that probably needs another look. So yeah, basically turning dials on each of these pieces of the business. And then once we have those dials tuned correctly, then I can unleash a, 20-person sales and marketing team to just gobble up as many clients as possible. Until then, I inherited a bit of a house of cards. No offense.
We've been saying that for years.
It's now like the stick house and the Three Little Pigs.
It's pretty good,
right? Like it's not the straw house. It's the stick house, but it needs to be a brick house. If we started turning the crank on marketing right now, I think it might blow over. Or it'd just be too painful. Like we would just stub our toe too many times. It's not worth it. So continuing to tune these dials and get the right systems in place, and then we can explode.
I think we used to be literally afraid. We called the business a house of cards because we didn't know. We thought we were overcharging. We were at the time, and we didn't know what customers were doing. And so we were literally afraid of going and talking to customers because the second you talk to them, you kind of remind them about things and they cancel. Now
it happened multiple times. We talked to them. We're like, oh wait, we have this service and it costs $5,000 a month. Let's just cancel that right after we have a call with them.
Now I have like so much trust in Jack, in the core team, and Linky, Nico, Erica that like I want to go talk to customers because their edits are so good. I want to show the world those edits. I want more people to actually use like clipped editing because it's magic. We just didn't have that before.
Right. And like
there was also
if your clients are having a problem that's going to cause them to cancel. Just because you don't hear it doesn't mean that it isn't there, right? It's better to talk
like an ostrich.
A couple things. I know we want to keep it tight. One was just saying like what was weird about our approach to business was like master marketing and have almost no company knowledge to start. Like 3 years ago when it kicked off, it was just like people just flooding us with money for a product that we were like inventing day by day. It was like literally pivoting the product every other day. Like 10 for 10. We like, I don't know, just like no calls. Oh, actually it's just a video editor now versus it's a set product. So we were like the complete opposite of you have a tornado, a good tornado, I guess, come through and like, it was just like Henry and I.
Oh, he's a nice tornado.
Yeah, I don't know. The analogy's a little fucked, but one question I do have: did you at any point have like fears of working with Henry / me, like kind of brother relationship? Because everyone's
family.
always like, "Hey, don't work with your family." Was that ever a concern?
Yeah, I really don't understand that. I mean,
well, you're coming from a company that was very family based.
Yeah, there were
you worked
multiple
with dad.
family members. I worked with my dad. We didn't really work together, but we worked in the same company for a bit. So I saw that. But I mean, I think the other thing is just like it depends on personalities, right? Like, for example, Henry, myself, and my sister are of the type where I think if my parents died in a car crash before writing their will, we would just sit down and figure out like, all right, how do we divvy this up fairly? No one really cares that much. And I'm sure there are different family dynamics out there where, you might worry about being screwed over by a sibling or having the business create conflict or whatever. But I mean, I think there were a couple things that didn't give me worry. One, like I said, our personalities are fine. We've been close for a long time. But two, I wasn't coming into work for either of you per se. I was coming in to take this thing that you hated doing and do it for you while you go do other things that you enjoy. So I didn't think there was a ton of opportunity for like butting heads or conflict. And I thought you guys were bringing me in for a particular reason and would respect like what I think we should do and things like that. I will say, like, Dylan, I didn't know you at all before, right? And I wasn't sure, like, am I going to be working for Henry and then there's this guy Dylan just dragging the whole thing down from New York.
Sometimes I try.
Well, but I actually saw you. It was, I think, back in October. We have this network of editors that we haven't hired, but we know of over in the Philippines. And you had this insight that like that network is an enormous asset. We should turn it into an asset by like actually investing some time in creating a database of all these people and then tap into that network to unlock our hiring flywheel. And one, it was a really good idea and a brilliant insight. But two, then I don't know exactly how much time you spent on it, but I certainly got the impression that you were just like up all night, like working to set this thing up over the next few days and then executing it. And that was what gave me assurances of working with you. Cause you know, Henry will refer to you as like the ideas guy or something. What do you call it?
No, like
Visionary.
sure, like direction, first principles guy. No,
Yeah.
you actually asked me. This was like 3 years ago. Maybe I did mention like I'm the executor, Dylan's the ideas guy.
Yeah. Or something
And you were
that.
like, you're like, well, everyone wants to be an ideas guy.
Right. That's
And I was like,
always-
no, like he thinks about stuff because he stays out of like the weeds of everyday crap. Like he thinks about stuff that I could never even
Right.
conceive of.
Well, but then what I got to see back in the fall was think about that thing that I would not have seen, you would not have seen, only Dylan, you would have seen. And then just became obsessed with it and executed on it for like the next 2 weeks and added a bunch of value to the business. And then I was like, oh yeah.
Since then, haven't touched it, but
well, we need to spin
the
it
old
back
bait
up.
and switch.
But that's
No,
not
no,
the
I
point.
mean, like,
the point is right.
Execute.
The point was like that is a different superpower.
Yeah.
It's a different archetype.
Right. Plus with the willingness to roll.
But I even told you before you came here, like you kind of need the me and Dylan because I will just go do something as fast as I can in any direction. And you need the Dylan to like grab me and just angle me that way and go.
Right.
Yeah.
You kind of need both.
I mean,
So
I
no,
hate.
I wasn't worried.
Yeah, I think the combo's nice. Yeah, I struggle. I could never do like homework assignments in school, like daily homework. I could never do it, but I'd always like whenever the exam came, I'd just crush right before. I don't know, it's like a personality type. Same thing here. I feel like I suck day to day, but then I'll get really excited about an idea, and then won't see me for 2 weeks. But then I'm just non-existent and obnoxious for the rest. So I hate myself for that part, but whatever. So yeah, so far I think camera overheated. But yeah, the nice thing is like just to cap the like working with family members stuff. I feel like everyone's advice is like they're hiring their friend to be under them, and their friend's not necessarily qualified. They just want to work with them, or they want to work, with their brother. But y'all are like the most like I thought Henry was like very even keel. Like Jack, you're just a degree beyond that, even more so. Which is just like this weird thing about like trust. Trust is just nice. It's just like you're the like most trustworthy people ever. Like, I mean, Henry, I don't think there's a single bank account I have. Not that there's any money in it, but like my whole, I think social security number, like there is nothing, but like, it just feels nice. So like that trust is key.
Michael Girdley once asked us before we hired Jack, like why Jack? And our answer was just like, because we know him and trust him, and like he can probably do the job at hand right now.
Your answer that made it into his podcast was
we don't know.
which to be fair is the right answer. I did think you could have given me a little more credit. Like he's good at some things, we think. Like I do have relevant experience. But yeah, being able to trust.
We weighed like trust as like the number one thing. Like we'll figure out whatever else. Yeah. Trust, smarts. I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, and if incentives are properly aligned too, right? Like Henry was saying earlier, I have 3 kids and no paycheck currently. So I can't coast, right? Like, I got to grow this thing.
Yeah.
So it works out.
Huh.
Let's get out of here.
All right.
That's it.
Gardeloo.
What was that?
That's the rallying cry
Of what?
to end. Gardaloo is when you, in like the 1600s, someone would throw a bucket of their like toilet water slop out the window.